report that kind of wraps up everything that happened on day 3.
It's 7 hours.
Massive, extraordinary, and deeply cherished, elephants have captured the hearts of people worldwide.
Known for their intelligence, social nature, and sheer size, it's no wonder we're endlessly fascinated by these incredible animals. Today, we present the 20 biggest elephants in the world. Number 20, world's biggest elephant in Tanzania. Now, I know that if you are anything like me, you have spent many, many hours of your life pondering the question of where in the world the biggest elephant might be. But the wait is finally over. You can call off the search, and we can finally rest easy because someone somewhere thinks that maybe they have found it. Now, I know that this is not up to the usual standards of world record breaking, clipboard clutching Guinness people measuring techniques, and I know the fancy banana is usually way more precise than all of this. But apparently, someone on the internet has seen a really big elephant, and we figured that you would want to know all about it as soon as possible because who doesn't want to see a massive elephant? This elephant that was apparently spotted in Tanzania is said to weigh in at 17,637 pounds, which is an estimated 8,000 kilograms, because I don't think that anyone has actually asked the creature to step on a scale. Previously, they alleged that the heaviest elephant had lived in Angola and had been a staggering 11,000 kilograms, which is 24,251 pounds, absurdly big. Number 19, Sri Lankan elephant. The Sri Lankan elephant is also sometimes known as the Ceylon elephant and is a subspecies of the Asian elephant that's native to the island nation of Sri Lanka, off the southern coast of India. Sri Lankan elephants are the largest and darkest of all Asian elephant subspecies. They typically have a chunky build, with males sporting fairly fancy tusks, while females generally have shorter ones or even none at all. All throughout history, these elephants have been intertwined with the island's culture and religion. They've been featured in traditional ceremonies, parades, and even as symbols of Sri Lankan identity. However, the population of Sri Lankan elephants has been steadily declining due to habitat loss, human-elephant conflicts, and poaching for their ivory. Conservation efforts are underway to protect the elephants, and national parks and protected areas in Sri Lanka provide some important habitats for them. These extraordinary animals are a keystone species, which basically means that their habits and behavior are essential for the ecosystem. From helping to spread seeds so that plants will grow to digging in order to create watering holes, the elephant is doing some vital work. If it ceases to exist, then their entire habitat and everything that lives there will end up suffering too. Number 18, African bush elephant. The African bush elephant also goes by the name of the African savanna elephant, but it's not the same as the forest elephant. I know it's a lot to take in, but we're all learning today now, aren't we? Although for the longest time it was believed there was just one species of the African elephant, there are in fact two, the African forest elephant and the African savanna. These two species are indeed closely related, though the African savanna elephant is the largest land animal in the world, and they're apparently twice the size of their closest relatives. They also have thicker tusks that have larger curves at the end, and their ears are considered to be more triangular in shape. These differences may be hard to tell unless they're compared next to each other, and then you'll have to ask them very politely if they wouldn't mind you messing about with their ears. Growing to be about 13 feet tall, and weighing in at a colossal 2.5 to even 7 tons, elephants are the strongest of all land animals, and not much can survive their tree-felling strength. Even a lion can be overcome by a stampeding elephant, but it seems as though the elephant's best defense is using its brain power, working together to protect the entire herd. An elephant's experience can literally save their lives. Despite the African elephant's incredible significance and enormous popularity, these animals still remain at risk of extinction. They're classified as being critically endangered, meaning that if things continue to go the way they are, there will be no more wild elephants for future generations to see. Not only that, these extraordinary animals are a keystone species, which basically means that their habits and behavior are essential for the ecosystem. From helping to spread seeds so that plants will grow to digging and creating watering holes, the African elephant is doing some vital work. Number 17, Jumbo. Next up, we have an elephant that was probably the first to have any kind of celebrity status, and that would be Jumbo. Jumbo the elephant was actually a total superstar within his time. He was the main exhibit at the London Zoo back in the late 1800s, which was a pretty significant role back then. But in 1882, he would be purchased from the London Zoo by one P.T. Barnum. That's right, the American circus showman. Jumbo's star rose even higher when the elephant arrived in New York. He would be greeted by a crowd of 10,000 people, all eager to witness the marvelous, famous animal firsthand. He was a very large elephant indeed, measuring over 11 feet tall and weighing 6 tons, and became known as the largest elephant in captivity. As a show animal, Jumbo was massively popular. He was gentle and intelligent, as most elephants tend to be, and he had a very close bond with his keeper. When Jumbo was given his name, it actually had no association with his size whatsoever. It is actually Jumbo the elephant that gave the meaning that we understand the word jumbo as being today because he was so large. Nowadays, Jumbo is a synonym for enormous, all because of this particular elephant. His life would be cut short under tragic circumstances when he was hit by a train in 1885 in Ontario, Canada. He was mourned by people all over the world. Number 16. Temple Elephant Raman. In India, many temples keep a captive elephant. This is because they're seen as divine creatures that can bestow things upon the faithful, and also they're used in many ceremonies and festivals. These animals are captive, naturally, meaning that they're not without a certain amount of controversy. So here we are in India, where elephants are frequently used in festivals. This particular temple elephant has a very long and unpronounceable name, which is mercifully shortened to Raman. He's also got another equally long name that translates to the only emperor, so that's what we'll call him. He's alleged to be the tallest living captive elephant, measuring in at 10.5 feet tall. Raman is also known to be partially blind, but despite the temple insisting that he is well treated, the controversy that surrounds these animals means that he is sometimes banned from being displayed. Now it's time for today's topic. In the arid plains of Chad's Jur Desert, archaeologists uncovered the colossal skeleton of a prehistoric elephant that once roamed Africa thousands of years ago. The discovery left scientists in awe, as this creature was unlike any known elephant species. Standing at an estimated height of over 20 feet, with tusks reaching nearly 15 feet in length, this ancient giant would have dwarfed even the largest African elephants of today. Using advanced 3D rendering technology, researchers brought this massive creature to life digitally, reconstructing its image based on the skeletal remains. The rendering revealed a creature of unimaginable size, with powerful limbs and an imposing stature that would have made it a dominant force in its prehistoric ecosystem. The virtual model, when compared to a human, showed just how towering and intimidating this elephant would have appeared if it were still alive today. The discovery has sparked intense interest from paleontologists and historians alike, as the skeleton provides a rare glimpse into the megafauna that once ruled the African continent. Known as the Goliath of Chad, this ancient elephant remains a reminder of Earth's forgotten giants, hidden away until now by the sands of time. Number 15. Deinotherium. Deinotherium is an extinct species of prehistoric mammals that lived around 23 to 5 million years ago. These creatures were part of an elephant family tree but had several distinctive features, which made them pretty different from the modern-day elephant. In fact, they were so different from any other elephant-like creatures that every scientist thought that they were the relatives of tapirs or sea cows. One of the most distinguishing features was its downward curving tusk. Unlike modern elephants, which have tusks that grow upward and outward, their tusks were curved downward from their lower jaw. This particular adaptation would allow them to use their tusks for stripping leaves, bark, and other vegetation from trees and shrubs. These creatures were truly massive, and it's believed that some species could be up to 13 feet at the shoulder. Fossil evidence suggests that they were pretty widespread, with fossils being found in Africa, Eurasia, and parts of North America. They likely thrived in a variety of habitats, from savannas to forests. Although nobody knows for sure the exact reason for their extinction, factors like climate change and shifts in vegetation likely played a significant role in their decline. Number 14. Loxodonta adorora. Next up, we have yet another extinct species of elephant. And yes, it is remarkably similar to all of the other ones you've ever seen before. We're having such fun today, now aren't we? This one's been found in lovely fossilized form in several places all across Africa, and it's actually the only area of the world in which they've been found. Their remains reveal slight differences in skull shape and tusk curvature, suggesting they were uniquely adapted to their environment. Unlike modern African elephants, these ancient relatives were built for life in a cooler, more varied landscape, with features that might have helped them endure harsher conditions. Their molars were structured to chew tougher plant material, hinting at a diet distinct from that of their modern counterparts. Genetic analysis has also hinted at occasional gene flow between the species and early mammoths, which might explain certain shared traits. Despite their close resemblance to today's elephants, these unique adaptations set them apart in fascinating ways. So, it's believed that they were the direct descendants of modern-day African elephants, except that more recent searches have uncovered that these are probably actually evolved from different but similar species and possibly also some kind of mammoth as well. It turns out that elephant lineage is a complex matter after all. Number 13. Black diamond. Back in 1929, the circus came to Corsicana, Texas. The town was in the last days of the oil boom that it had been enjoying since the beginning of the century, and the population, well, they were at an all-time high. The circus was still pretty big and exciting in that era, and when it rolled into town, that was still reasonably interesting enough. Movies and radio had begun to fill up a lot of the entertainment void, and people came from miles around to see the circus in Corsicana. This particular circus had one very special attraction. It was a herd of elephants. The circus paraded right through the downtown area, and thousands of people stood to watch the spectacle. One especially large elephant named Black Diamond had his tusks sawed down and was wearing an iron bar to restrict his use of them. He also wore chains and shackles to keep him under control, so it was clear that the circus people knew the elephant could be dangerous. In fact, he had already harmed 3 people, although that fact was being kept quiet. But anyways, you can probably see where it's all going. Black Diamond got free from his handlers, knocked a woman to the ground, dragged her across the street, and caused a lot of injury. She would soon be pronounced dead. Naturally, people were horrified, and they blamed the elephant. Now, it should be noted here that we are so very fond of these beautiful creatures that we've neglected to remember that an angry elephant can squash a person in an instant, and there's not a whole lot that anybody can do about it. Elephants are generally peace-loving creatures, provided that you leave them alone and they aren't made to feel threatened in any kind of way. However, the males can be super aggressive when they are in the season of busting out their most macho moves or gaining their spot in the hierarchy and charming the ladies. Any males meeting with other males during that time are likely to begin a fight, and they're so pumped up with all their hormones that they just can't help it. So the circus kind of didn't take any of that stuff into account and paraded an elephant around that was known to have some issues. The town essentially sentenced the animal to death, and he was summarily executed by firing squad. It took somewhere between 50 to 170 rounds before the elephant finally succumbed. It's absolutely horrific. Number 12, the Asian elephant. The Asian elephant is one of the most revered animals in Asia and across the world in general. In many Asian cultures, the elephant symbolizes wisdom, strength, and sometimes even divine significance. They've played important roles in religious ceremonies, cultural festivals, and as working animals all throughout history. Asian elephants have large, gray bodies with long trunks and, in some cases, small and rounded ears. The males tend to be larger and heavier than the females, and they're super social animals with pretty complex family structures and tight groups that are led by a matriarch. These elephants are really smart as well. Their brains are bigger than any other land animal on the entire planet, and they alone weigh 11 pounds. Asian elephants are herbivores, feeding on a diet of grasses, leaves, fruits, and bark. Their massive size and strength make them important ecological engineers of their habitats, helping to shape and maintain forests and grasslands. These days, despite our professed love for elephants in general, Asian elephants face tons of different threats in the wild, all of which are caused by harmful human behavior, habitat loss due to deforestation and human development, poaching for ivory and other body parts, and conflicts with humans over resources and space. Number 11, Mammuthus meridionalis. This prehistoric species of elephant, whose name I likely mispronounce, is more commonly known as the southern mammoth, which lived roughly around 2 million to 700,000 years ago. This creature was, guess what, part of the mammoth genus, which also includes the more famous woolly mammoth and the Columbian mammoth. Yes, there are many types of them. Who even knew?
Again, there was a statement she makes in 1891. She writes this about the Ten Commandments. She said, the Ten Commandments are 10 laws, and there is not a negative in any of them. Now, anybody who's read the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not, 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 right? So it appears to be negative. Well, scholars have discovered something. Recently, I'm talking about recently, they have discovered in the original language, she has no knowledge of biblical languages, that Ten Commandments can be rendered 2 ways. Thou shalt not, or you will not. Now, if you start the Ten Commandments, this is a little bit before me, then it's a thou shalt not kind of faith, right? But it doesn't start there. It begins when God says, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. I'm the one that delivered you, Israel, out of Egypt to bondage. And then the commandments begin. And what God is saying is, because I brought you out, I promise you that if you stay with me and if I am a part of your life, not only will you not, you will not have any other gods before me. You will not steal and you will not lie, because I will be in you.
That's a fascinating recalibration of the Ten Commandments, whereas, we're told, hey, these are just 10 commands. What you're saying is, look, these are 10 outcomes, 10 promises. That is the result of believing God's deliverance in your life.
And she couldn't know it because no biblical person of that time knew that, understand it. She had no knowledge of biblical languages. She is writing what God has revealed to her. And scholars today, one scholar, Dr. Richard Davidson at Andrews University, has proven that and many other things like that, where she could not have understood what we know today.
That is true. The Bible does say that people, at the end of time, there'll be visions and prophecies, but there are a lot of false prophets, out there. How would you say that pass some of the test of a biblical test of a genuine prophet? Because a lot of people say all sorts of things.
Well, yeah, there are 4 different tests. One of them is fruit. It's called the fruit test. By their fruits you will know them. How the person lives their life, right? Well, I wouldn't take Adventist word for it. Take the word of secular entities that wrote about her after her life, after she passed away. One of those is a couple of newspapers in New York and some other places that said she was honest, she was worthy of a prophetess, she gave away her resources to start different institutions around the world, she lived the life. That's one. Then, does the person speak according to what the Bible calls the law and the testimony, according to God's word? The prophets, what they have written, what God has given in Scripture.
I'm Kevin with Main Switch Shop, and today we're going to make this little step stool out of just some 2x4s and some scrap pine that we had laying around. Let's check it. Cutting 3 15-inch long pieces out of it. I'm not using a stop block to do that. They don't have to be perfect because once I get the panel glued together, I can just trim the sides square. I need to cut some straight, square edges on the sides of my boards. If you like the look of the rounded over edges coming together, you could just leave it like that. I think this is a tad wide for the top of the stool. So on this middle section, I'm going to cut it off about a 1/2 inch off one side. And then when I reset my fence to cut a straight edge on one side of these two, will be taken off maybe about a 1/4 inch. Then I'll take off the other side for this. And close my garage so it looks like a storm is coming in. Look out. So he's using his dovetail cat bed. I didn't think that they would use the cat bed at all, but there he is. I'm cutting the legs for the stool, and what I'm doing is I want them to be cut at an angle, so I'm using my fence as a stop, and I'd like to say normally you would never use your miter gauge in combination with your rip fence, but the only thing that makes it appropriate here, because of the fact that I've got my miter gauge on this side, I can put this up against here, and the cutoff piece is on the outside, so this won't get trapped between the blade and the fence because I'll have control over this piece. If this was a loose cutoff, then it would be dangerous because it would be loose and pinched between the blade and the fence so it could kick back. But as long as it's maintained control here, then you're good. Now I'm just cutting the braces for between the legs. Stool upside down, kind of how it's going to look. So what I want to do is I want to round over any edges that are not currently rounded over. And on these rails, or the braces, I'll only be rounding over the 2 sides. need to drill some pocket holes so I can attach the braces to the legs. And one thing that's important is on these longer braces, I'm going to put the pocket holes farther to the edges, and on the inner piece, I'm going to put them closer together because when I go to attach them, I don't want the screws to hit each other. We're getting assembly of this, and I'm using glue in combination with my pocket screws. Done pocket holes without glue before, and I've done just fine, but something about the glue, it makes me feel better. Thanks for teamwork. It would be a good finish for the school. Splash. Is it a little splash? It's I don't think the job, but I mean, yes. This fur is looking very nice. Of course, I'm going to test it out. There's my phone, it's uneven. Take my shoes off, it's uneven, the shoes are dusty, so. Okay. That's it.
Alright, y'all, for Resurrection Ranch, we're still all by God. As y'all see, we jumped right into work today. And we got the trim put around the door jambs because this is what we're doing in the living area. Because in the rest of the room, we're going to leave the trim how it is. We just want to kind of dress it up in this living area. And also, I did that because the baseboard is kind of thick. And I didn't want it to be looking funny in the living area, the living room, and everything. So that's the plan is to do in all the living areas to do trim around the doors and places like that. So they can just dress it up real nice and just leave the real trim in the bedrooms and in kind of the secondary areas. But as y'all can see, it's looking pretty good. Kind of dressed it up a little bit. And I went ahead and caught it before I picked the camera up and showed y'all. Because I didn't want y'all to see my gaps on my head and my cuts and everything. And go ahead and show y'all this over here. You want to see what my mom thinks about it. But then we got that one done as well. Yeah, he caught up, got a little piece of shoe molding down there to cover that gap. Because our flooring install, I kind of left just a little bit too much gap on this end down here. But we're able to dress it up and everything, make everything look good. But Mom, what do you think? Do you like the trim we did around the doors?
I really do. I really didn't see it at first, but I see what you did and how well it does. It does look. And I was thinking about the what you call it, just the molding at the bottom.
Baseboards.
Baseboard. It's going to actually mount up to that.
Exactly.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to figure out. Okay, why is he looking at already there?
Oh yeah.
I see why now. I found figured that.
That's right. Because yeah, this is gonna come out about the same distance as the trim around the door, and then we're gonna have a piece of shoe molding at the bottom of it. And so you're talking about a whole like inch and a half where it's gonna come off the wall, and it's gonna kind of look kind of funny. Like I said, just in the living areas, the bedrooms won't make a difference, but it's gonna kind of look kind of funny, you know, with that baseboard sitting all the way out there, you know, and then having that little bit of piece of trim sitting by the door. So you like it?
I like it.
Yeah, you got a chance to see my rookie ankle cutting.
That's all right. You did good.
That's right. What's the saying? A little bit of paint, make me a carpenter. All right. For real. So somebody else might be able to do it faster and cut the angles better than I can and do all that. But at the end of the day, it looks the same. And nobody's gonna know what went on. But let me show y'all the trim of Lawjr right there. It's around these doors. But as you can see, it's just this little mobile home trim. And like I said, I might even, we'll see. Because, you know, I get in this room, I might feel like coming in here and trimming out around these as well. And, but yeah, like I say, I don't think it'll be too big of a deal in these bedrooms because that baseboard is supposed to put right up against the side of it. And it's going to kind of be sticking out a little bit. And I was afraid to do it in the living areas. I was thinking it was going to look kind of funny. But we're getting going for today, and we're going to be starting these baseboards. So y'all just stick around. We're not going to do a whole lot of talking today. It's just going to be straight head down, get this work done. Because my mom is going to be moving in a few days, right? A few weeks, few days, sometimes. She's already really started the process. Like I said, y'all see her storage shed back in the back. It's full of stuff. And she got a back room full of stuff back there. So I can't even say she's going to be moving in a couple weeks because she's already started the process. And once we get these baseboards, get her all touch up, paint everything top, she's gonna go ahead and move her bed down here, move her living room, soup, and all those things, and we'll be in there. So y'all stick around. We putting down baseboards today.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights. I really wanna know. If I never figure out where the road goes, even if I'm falling down, I will keep going. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. mountain cliff so high, trusting our wings to fly. Sometimes we're crashing down, but we get up and start from the ground. And I really wanna know if I never figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. Even if the sky is falling down, the sky is falling down, the sky is falling down. Even if the sky is falling down, the sky is falling down, the sky is falling down.
Break, take our lunch break, because we're both tired. I know y'all saying, this little same thing, y'all should be able to finish it off one day. Like we're rookies, and we're taking our time to make sure we do it properly, and don't mess it up and have it looking all crazy. But we're done with this run. We're gonna take a break, and we're gonna go ahead and do the shoe molding now. If you don't know what shoe molding is, it's this little round piece here, and it goes at the bottom, and it takes away the gap. Because sometimes, a lot of times, the floor is not completely flush and level. And you can see it here at this spot here in this corner, because it's flat right there. You see how it's flush against the floor there, and then right here in this corner, it's kind of sticking up a little bit. And that shoe molding is gonna cover that up. Like I said, we're gonna caulk as well, caulk in that corner to fill that in. But the shoe molding has like a little bit of flex to it. Let me show you. Show y'all what I mean. If you're not familiar with shoe molding, So the shoe mold thing is gonna fit right in, right there, like that, and make that nice and flush and clean. And that shoe mold has like a little bit of it's flexible, so it can like hold the contour of the floor if it's not level. And we're gonna get all that shoe mold and put in after lunch. And then we're gonna go ahead and after we get all the shoe mold and put in, caulk everything, and then it'll be ready for touch-up paint. So that's the plan. We're gonna take a break, and then we just pick it all up, and then when we get back started putting that shoe mold in there.
All right, y'all, we done finished our lunch break. It's time to get back to work. The first thing I'm gonna do is do a little cleaning up in the area, get everything prepped, so we can get ready to put, shoe load down. And, like I said, first of all, I'm gonna get the room cleaned up. And like I said earlier, we decided to go and do everything in one room and have it complete. So the next time we become a star room, we'll start another room and complete it. So I think that was the best way to do it. At least we'll get one room completed and move on to another. So that's what I'm gonna do right now, do a little cleaning and prep for the shoot.
We might, lost but not forever. There's ways in life to simply need to know. That's all the rain of trust and letting go. It takes a bit of suffering, sleepless nights of wandering, before you make it safe to the end. The end. Don't say you're ridiculous, and I will close. Don't wish for a difference, you're not one of those. We fall, but we always rise up through it all. We get a little wiser. There's things in life you simply need to know. What's on the rain and trust and let it go. It takes a bit of suffering, sleepless nights before you make it safe to the end. The end, the end. And if you ever wonder, there is nothing wrong with loving. There's things in life you simply need to know. Like sun, rain, and trust and let it go.
All right, y'all, my mom get back looking good in here. Now it's time to get it back dirty again. Now let some more sawdust fly to get the shoe motor down. So let's get the shoe motor down. I'll say something. All right, as y'all can see, my mom is sweeping again, getting that little bit of sawdust that we threw up in the air while we were cutting that shoe molding. We were just knocking the edges off of it to make it make sure everything was flush and smooth. But y'all can see how the shoe molding is, how it looks. Looking good. We got little spots like that right there. Then we are gonna caulk, and we're gonna come in and caulk this baseboard here. So that's pretty much what our next goal is to get everything caulked and get all the nail holes and everything patched up and make sure everything's just looking nice and smooth and just look at it. Looks amazing. Are you satisfied, Mom, with the process and how it looks? Good.
I see why you told me I needed shoe molding.
Oh yeah.
I said, why do we need both of them? Well, I see why now.
Yeah, you saw how like it is able to flex and fill in those gaps and everything.
Indeed.
That's right.
It's good.
Yeah, I remember in your house that you had in the city, they did basically, you did like a remodel in your house, and they did the baseboards, but they didn't do shoe molding.
Right.
And so I remembered that, and I couldn't wait until I got an opportunity to put down some shoe molding for you, so that you can get that full like baseboard finished look. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad that you like it.
And silly me thinking, okay, when I saw that shoe mold, I'm thinking all that came in one piece.
Oh yeah.
I'm not running down it, it does not.
That's right. They gonna charge you for everything.
Everything. Right.
That's it. All right. Well, I'm glad my mom likes it, and everything's looking good. Like I said, we're gonna flip it up and clean it up one more time, and then we're gonna go ahead and start pull out the cop guns and do one of my least favorite things, which is caulking. And then, like I said, we'll probably just touch up paint another day. I let my mom do that. That's something she can handle. I taught her how to paint pretty well, or Jesus has taught her how to paint pretty well. So yeah, we're gonna get swept up, take this little mini break, catch our breath, get our caulk guns, get back to work. Don't tell the blind, but they're in there tight now. Because they're in there right.
Because normally I can.
Yeah, don't go down because it's in there good, man.
But anyway, he switched them around. I had them, I think, upside down.
Yeah, and I tried to tell her, but she wouldn't listen because she actually called me yesterday and said, I got it fixed, I haven't figured it out. And I was thinking, so you turn them right side up like I told her to. She was like, no, like, I got it figured out though. Because I got here today and they were still wrong.
But they were all.
Exactly right. But they were all popped up sideways. I told her, I said, you're not gonna let my kids come down here and pull them blinds down. They fall and then blame me. So I'm gonna go and fix them right because you got grandkids gonna be over here running around, stomping, looking out the window and all that type of stuff. So we gotta get them right.
So they don't touch me blind.
Yeah.
But anyway, you see what happens now. I don't have to worry about holding on to something to keep them from falling down. So,
That's good.
glad you did that.
You did good. That's why I'm here.
That's progress on these blinds today. So, all right, before we start with the baseboards and the rollers, we also put baseboards around the doors. And I love that. I love the finish look that it gives.
And we were gonna replace this door, but I think you feel elated to keep it, and you're gonna refinish it, paint it. Talk to us about that.
Okay, well, what I'm thinking about doing, I haven't quite decided yet. Oh, there we go. At the bottom, it makes it look more flush.
Yep.
That's
It's just the prime baseboards, like you taught me, but then I learned enough to where I started taking it to another level and learning from other. And have everything prepped, and I can come in, just put the baseboard, put the shoe molding down, and we can kind of work together, but not have to be actually working together. She can be doing one thing, I can be doing another thing. Y'all get what I'm saying? But tomorrow we should be rolling, and we're gonna try to get here bright and early tomorrow.
Hi guys! In today's video, we're going to be making a small stool. It's a very simple project. All you're going to be needing is a handsaw and a chisel. This is the stool dismantled at the moment. There's no screws, no nails, no glue. It all just slots together. So I'm going to assemble it and show you how it works. There you have it. Isn't that great? I was influenced by a couple of other videos on YouTube from China. This seems to be a popular stool in the villages. So I thought I'd give it a go. And now I'm going to show you how you can do it too. So let's get started. Okay. So the first thing we're going to need to do, I've got a board here of spruce. It's cheap dimension lumber. You should be able to pick it up in most big box stores in the States, in Home Depot, something like that. And it's about 20 centimeters wide, it's a bit less. And I've got here just over 1.20 meters. So what I need for the stool, I'm going to need a piece to sit on, 40 centimeters long, the stretcher that holds the legs and goes underneath, which is also 40 centimeters long, and 2 pieces of 20. So I'm just going to start to mark that out. Go. I'm going to mark one piece, and then I'm going to saw it off. I'm going to use a handsaw to cut the material with. If you've got jigsaw, you could use a jigsaw. If you've got a table saw, of course, you could use your table saw. If you've got a sliding miter saw that will cut 20 centimeters, you could use that. I'm going to use a handsaw because nearly everyone's got a handsaw. So I've marked 40 centimeters. Now I'm going to cut this line. Okay, so I've connected the board to the table with a couple of clamps. I have a vise, but I know everyone doesn't have a vise, so I'm using clamps. Make sure your work is secure before you start to saw. If you haven't done much work with a handsaw and you want to know how to cut straight, I'll put a link in the video of how to saw straight from another video I have. Okay. Now I'm going to mark out another piece. Also 40 centimeters. Now we need to mark out 2 pieces for the legs. Okay, so now I'm going to mark out the bottom of the stool, which holds the legs. So this is the piece that's going to support the legs on the top. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to mark a line here. We'll mark a line, the thickness on the top. So we're going to mark in 4 centimeters. 4 centimeters. This is going to go. Now the next thing I need to mark out is the position of the legs and chop off the corners. Now, when I look at the proportions here, I see that this piece is really too big. I'm going to rip a piece off, make it a bit narrower. I'm going to do 12 centimeters. Now I'm going to rip that off. Okay, so I'm just going to rip this piece along here. I'm just using a bench.
It's 8 hours.
This is the edge I just ripped off with the saw. If you've got a plane, you can clean it up with a plane. If you don't have a plane, you can get a little bit of sandpaper. There we go. I've got a nice clean edge. Okay, as I was saying, now I'm going to cut off these corners and make the position for the legs. So now I'm going to just mark to cut off these corners, which are more aesthetic than anything. I'll measure it at the bottom, 6 centimeters. From the top, I'll measure down. Oh, that looks nice, let's say 4 centimeters. Do the same over here. Like I said, this is just aesthetic, so you can do whatever you like. Cut any old shape you like, but just leave it square. And I'm going to cut it off. That's going to go. That's going to go. And then we need the position of the legs. Now, I would like the legs to come out in line with the end of the stool. If I put legs somewhere like this and someone sits on the end of the stool, you can tip over. So again, this is just approximately. I think my legs should go something like this, maybe a little bit less angle. This gets up to this sort, so I think I make that piece a bit smaller as well. We're going to come in, instead of 3 centimeters there, we're going to come in 2 centimeters. was actually something like this. So, now I can do a couple of things. I could take a level gauge and say, oh, check my angles and see how many degrees and stuff this is, but I remember when I was starting out, we didn't have that idea of angles and stuff too much. So, instead of having to worry about angles, you can just do it by measuring at that line. 3.5 centimeters and 6 centimeters. Here, 6 centimeters. 3.5 centimeters. On my leg, about the thickness of the material. This. Now these legs are also going to have a cut here, so it goes half and half. So I want to measure this distance here. About 10 centimeters at this angle. So if I measure up here now, 5. 5. Roll this together. Out. So here. And this is what's going to go.
Was it TV out there? She goes to TV out there for real. Didn't make it to the day count. I mean, I'm sorry. We just got here, so we can do all this stuff for each other. But, yeah, thanks.
Who in Africa dares to speak the raw, unfiltered truth about why the continent has struggled for so long? How can a land so rich in resources remain so poor? Dr. Arakana didn't hold back. She fearlessly called out powerful individuals and exposed hidden truths that no one dared to touch. She didn't worry about being politically correct. Her focus was solely on what Africans needed to know. But what exactly did she say that captured the world's attention? Let's find out. Let's get straight to it. Dr. Arakana Chihom Kwao just set the stage on fire with one of the most explosive speeches Africa has witnessed in recent years. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill diplomatic talk. No, it was a scorching, no holds barred call to action that left African leaders visibly shaken. Imagine a thunderstorm rolling into a quiet town, the kind that doesn't just pass through, but leaves a trail of uprooted trees and shattered windows. That's the kind of impact Dr. Arakana had when she took the podium in South Africa. Now, let's break down the speech that's got everyone talking. Dr. Arakana wasn't content with merely pointing fingers at the age-old Western powers we've grown used to blaming for Africa's woes. Instead, she flipped the script in a way that no one saw coming. She put African leaders directly in the hot seat. In a room filled with some of the most influential figures on the continent, she pulled no punches, accusing these leaders of being the gatekeepers of Africa's misery. According to her, it's not just foreign powers that are bleeding Africa dry. It's the very people who claim to protect it. Here's where it gets interesting. Dr. Arakana likened the current crop of African elites to gatekeepers who have locked the continent in a cycle of dependency, not on chains or whips, but on contracts, aid, and handouts. She argued that the real betrayal is not just the historical looting by colonial forces, but the modern-day sellout by African leaders who continue to sign deals that strip their nations of resources while filling their own pockets. What's the price of loyalty to your people? She asked, her voice resonating like a drumbeat. The room fell silent. It was the kind of question that hangs in the air long after it's been asked. Dr. Arakana went on to detail how some African leaders have essentially become gatekeepers for Western interests, betraying their citizens for a slice of the pie. But here's the thing, it's not even a real pie. It's the crumbs from the Western feast, while the continent remains starved.
The question is, our leadership is fully aware of the pillars of development. Our leaders are fully aware of the enemies to Africa's development. And yet somehow they're incapable of addressing them.
Dr. Arikana didn't stop there. She delivered a gut-wrenching metaphor that sent ripples through the audience. Africa is the goose that lays golden eggs, but our leaders are feeding it to the wolves. She laid bare how these leaders are not only failing to protect Africa's wealth, but are actively participating in the plunder, all in exchange for personal gain. According to her, it's not enough to point the finger outward. Africa needs to clean its own house first. In a move that truly hit home, she called for a complete overhaul of the leadership mindset on the continent. She urged the youth to rise, not with protests, but with education and innovation to reclaim their future. The time for begging is over, she declared. We have everything we need within us to transform Africa. But first, we must be brave enough to call out our own. The room erupted in applause. But let's be honest, it was the applause of those who had just been slapped away. Dr. Arikana had made it clear. Africa's liberation won't come from foreign aid or trade agreements skewed in favor of the West. It will come from a new generation of leaders who are willing to challenge the status quo, break free from the mental chains of dependency, and finally put Africa's interests first. It was a rallying cry, not just to African leaders, but to every African who's watching their continent's potential being siphoned away. Dr. Arikana's words were like a mirror, reflecting the uncomfortable truth that Africa's biggest obstacles may not always come from the outside. And now, the question remains, will the leaders she called out dare to step up, or will they continue to dance to the tune of foreign powers while Africa pays the price? Most importantly, are the leaders only to blame? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Dr. Arikana didn't stop at calling out African leaders alone. She turned her sharp criticism toward ECOWAS, the regional body that claims to protect West Africa's interests. To put it simply, she exposed ECOWAS as a toothless watchdog when it matters, and a fierce enforcer when it's convenient for foreign powers. Let's break it down. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, 3 West African nations, recently made headlines for military coups that overthrew their governments. The moment these countries took control of their destinies, ECOWAS was quick to jump in with threats of sanctions and military intervention. It's almost like ECOWAS was on standby, ready to act at the snap of a finger. But here's the question, Doctor. Arikana dared to ask, where was this urgency when these very countries were being drained of their resources by foreign powers like France? Take Niger as a glaring example. For decades, Niger's vast uranium reserves have been largely controlled by French companies, who profited while the people of Niger struggled with poverty. When the recent military government decided to reclaim control of its uranium industry, suddenly there were talks of sanctions and even military action from ECOWAS. Dr. Arikana pointed out the irony. Why is ECOWAS so quick to take action against fellow African nations trying to assert their independence, but completely silent when it comes to confronting Western powers that have been exploiting Africa's wealth? The hypocrisy doesn't end there. Dr. Arikana drew attention to how ECOWAS has been quick to mobilize its forces to punish African countries that refuse to follow the old colonial script. For instance, after the coups in Mali and Burkina Faso, ECOWAS leaders gathered almost immediately, issuing statements, imposing sanctions, and even discussing military intervention. But when it comes to challenging the real forces draining Africa's resources, like France's decades-long grip on West Africa's economy, ECOWAS is conveniently quiet. She didn't hold back in describing ECOWAS as nothing more than a puppet for Western interests, suggesting that its true role isn't to protect African nations, but rather to enforce Western influence on the continent. Dr. Arikana highlighted that ECOWAS acts tough only when it's time to punish African nations that try to break free from these exploitative ties. But when the real villains, the foreign corporations and governments profiting off Africa's resources, come into play, ECOWAS suddenly goes missing. In her speech, Dr. Arikana questioned, why is ECOWAS so eager to act against its people, but silent when it's time to challenge those who have been stealing from Africa for centuries? It's a stark reality. ECOWAS appears more interested in keeping African nations in check rather than empowering them to stand up to outside exploitation. Dr. Arikana's words were a wake-up call, urging the audience to see through the charade. She argued that the real betrayal wasn't just from the outside forces exploiting Africa, but from African institutions like ECOWAS, which, instead of protecting their people, seem more interested in protecting the interests of their former colonial masters.
Oh, we can never do. I said, help me understand something. France has had coups against these nations for centuries. When France is forcing these countries to deposit their bank reserves with France, that's a coup, an economic coup. President Tinubu, what have you done about this coup? You are sitting on the big boy chair now. Talk to me. What are you going to do?
The harsh reality she laid out was this. ECOWAS is more willing to deploy troops and enforce sanctions against its African brothers and sisters than it is to challenge the real enemies who have been draining the continent dry for generations. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but one that she insists Africa must face if it ever hopes to break free from its chains. Her call to action was clear. Africa's fight isn't just against the West, it's also against those within who have chosen comfort and complacency over true liberation. The question now is, will ECOWAS continue to serve as the gatekeeper for Western interests, or will it finally stand up for the people it claims to represent? Dr. Arikana wasn't done yet. If you thought she was finished stirring the pot, think again. This time, she went straight for the jugular, turning her focus to Africa's ongoing dependency on loans from Western financial institutions. Why? She asked the audience, her voice steady but forceful. Is a continent overflowing with natural resources still begging for money from Western banks? The question hung in the air like a challenge, daring anyone to justify this paradox. Africa holds 30% of the world's mineral resources. We're talking gold, diamonds, oil, cobalt, and more. Yet despite sitting on these vast reserves, African nations still line up, hand in hand, to beg for loans from the IMF and World Bank. And what do these loans get us? More debt, more control, and more strings attached. Western powers aren't handing out this money out of kindness. They're using it to tighten their grip on the continent. It's like a drug dealer handing out freebies. Just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to set you free. Dr. Arikana called it out for what it is, a cycle of dependency. African leaders are like addicts who keep coming back for another fix, selling their people's futures for short-term gains. But it's not just about the loans. The tragedy, as she pointed out, is that while African leaders are busy begging for scraps, the continent is hemorrhaging money at an alarming rate. Consider this. According to the African Development Bank, Africa loses over $50 billion annually to illicit financial flows. This is money siphoned off through tax evasion, shady deals, and corruption, with multinationals and a few corrupt officials at the helm. That's $50 billion that could have been invested in schools, hospitals, infrastructure, and innovation. But instead, it's lining the pockets of foreign corporations and a few greedy officials. Dr. Arikana didn't stop there. She painted a stark picture of the hypocrisy. African countries lose billions through financial loopholes and corruption, but still dare to go knocking on the doors of the IMF and World Bank asking for loans. And let's not forget, these loans come with crippling conditions, structural adjustment programs that force nations to cut spending on social services, privatize public assets, and open up markets to foreign exploitation. Take Zambia, for example. The country borrowed heavily to fund infrastructure projects, roads, bridges, you name it. But now, Zambia finds itself in a debt trap, struggling to pay off Chinese loans that were supposed to be investments in the country's future. Instead of economic freedom, Zambia is now stuck in a cycle of debt, with its sovereignty at risk as it negotiates with creditors. And this isn't just Zambia's story, it's a cautionary tale for the entire continent. Dr. Arikana put it bluntly. We have to stop pretending that foreign aid and loans are gifts. They are not. These are not acts of charity. They are calculated moves to keep Africa dependent and under control. The continent's leaders, she argued, need to wake up and realize that every loan signed, every aid package accepted, is another chain around Africa's neck. Her call to action was clear. Africa doesn't need to be begging for loans when it's sitting on a gold mine. The solution isn't in more foreign aid or loans. It's in taking control of our resources, stopping the financial leaks, and investing in our people. The real question is, will African leaders finally take charge of their destiny, or will they keep playing the role of beggars in a world where they should be kings? And where do locals come into this? Do they also have some responsibility? Dr. Arikana then turned to a subject that, according to her, is even more insidious than economic exploitation, mental colonization. She took a deep breath, scanned the room, and then dropped a truth bomb that hit everyone like a shockwave. Let's be honest with ourselves, she began. Colonialism never truly ended. It simply changed its face, its tactics. Her voice was filled with urgency as she painted a vivid picture of a continent that, despite gaining physical independence decades ago, is still mentally shackled by the remnants of colonial rule. Africans, she said with a piercing gaze, have been psychologically conditioned to believe that anything coming from the West is automatically superior. This, she argued, is a more dangerous form of control than any military or economic domination. Dr. Arikana laid out examples that many in the audience could not ignore. Take a look at our daily lives, she said. The way we dress, the brands we idolize, the languages we prioritize, even the history we teach our children. Everything reflects a mindset that places Western culture on a pedestal. This mentality, according to her, is what keeps Africa in a cycle of dependency. It's the invisible chain that holds a continent back, preventing it from realizing its true potential. Africa has rich cultural traditions, hundreds of languages, and a history filled with incredible achievements. Yet many Africans take pride in speaking English or French better than their native languages. Dr. Arikana didn't mince words when she called this out. She questioned why government officials boast about their fluency in these foreign languages, often viewing it as a mark of sophistication or intelligence. What does it say about us, she asked, when we take more pride in mastering the language of our colonizers than in preserving our tongues?
Minds that are free of the legacy of colonization and the legacy of slavery. As we speak today, we're all sick from the disease. None of us is exempt. And that's the fact. I'm going to ask each and every one of you to have a serious conversation with Imogen there. And ask yourself why you feel weak. Why are you automatically afraid of those who don't know you? Why do you feel defeated? Why are you afraid to speak up and stand your ground?
But it's not just about language. Dr. Arikana delved into the content of African education systems, which are still heavily based on Western curriculums. From a young age, African
So I guess maybe win-win.
Too bad Scott's not here. I feel like he would be all in on this crazy ass dogs.
He's probably booking this for right now.
Yeah.
I don't know, on his computer.
When I go on vacation, I wanna get away from my
Yes.
dogs. You know, that's not for me.
Let's see what's happening next on Today. Good morning, guys. Coming up on Today, it's a busy day in Walk.
Before I get started milling lumber, I want to show you guys a trick that I use on a lot of my cast iron surfaces that I've had to do over the years because I do heat this shop with liquid propane. That puts moisture in the air, and with garage doors opening in the spring and summer, get humidity in here, get some rust on the machines, on the machine surfaces. Show you a real quick way to slick those up so that your wood will slide across those really nice. As you can see here, we're at the planer, and this is a product made by Merca, And I actually purchased it for finishing, doing a sand finish on clear coats and things like that. But it's 360 grit. I'm not sure what they call it. It's called Abranet or something like that maybe. But anyways, it's called Merlon. That's what it's called. Merca makes it 360, and it works great for kind of buffing out the surface on cast. Gets that light layer of rust off and gets a little bit of that pitting that can happen done. But what I like to do is actually cut the pieces in half and then take your orbital sander and just put the piece on the bottom of your orbital sander and then turn it on and just go around, and it just kind of buffs any of that rust off, makes it super slick. So I already did this already. And you can see how smooth that is. It's really nice. Wood's gonna go across that really nice. Now, if you come over here, unfortunately, my garage door opens up and I get some wood drippings coming down here. And this is by far the worst machine. I haven't touched this yet, but you can see how rusty it is. I'm gonna go to work on this and then I'll show you what it looks like. So as you can see, that made really quick work of that rust that had developed across there. I'll link this product in the notes below. Great stuff to have in the shop on hand. Just throw it under a sander and makes quick work of it. So then after, there's a lot of products that you can use to coat your cast surfaces. I've been using Glide Coat. The one thing you have to remember with it is after you're done, turn the can upside down and spray it. Otherwise, it'll dry on the tip and the can will basically be worthless without a new tip. So just give that a spray over the top. And then I find that I like to let it kind of tack up and dry a little bit, and then I actually buff it rather than just leaving it sit there and dry.
We're here at Longview, Texas, at one of Keno Crosby's flagship manufacturing plants. My name's Ben, and this is the Lifting and Rigging Channel. We're here in Longview, Texas, where Keno Crosby makes Crosby shackles. Next to a crane and a hook, a shackle is probably the most recognized piece of equipment within the lifting industry. It is a critical piece of equipment for rigging, and the Crosby name is synonymous with them. Here in Longview, Texas, Keno Crosby forges all different types of rigging equipment, and they've agreed to let us in and show us how a shackle is made. So let's head on in and find out. Hi, Fernando.
Hi, Benny.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Glad you're here today.
Thanks for having us. Can you tell me a little bit about Keno Crosby?
Yes, Keno Crosby is the global leader of the lifting sector and industry. We are the most vertically integrated manufacturer. We build what we sell.
So what do you sell? What do you build?
We build shackles, hooks, links, load binders, sockets, and many variations on those products.
So we're here to see how a shackle's made, right?
Yes, exactly. Let's go.
All right.
Our first stop was to learn what goes into engineering a shackle. Justin broke it down for us.
Developing shackles has been done for a long time, so we have a lot of historical information to go off of. We do a lot of supporting the manufacturing team to make sure that we make quality products. Sometimes if there's a creative loading scenario that maybe brings questions to our standard guidance, I'll run finite element analysis to make sure that customers won't have any issues. Most of the design is us making sure that we comply with third-party specifications. So that's the things that customers are going to expect out of shackles. That's fatigue life, that's the standard dimensions so that they fit with any product out in the field, and other mechanical properties like corrosion resistance and hydrogen and embrittlement protection.
After getting outfitted with our PPE and receiving a thorough safety briefing, we went down to the factory floor.
Hey, welcome to Longview, Texas. I'm Jim Zupansky. We're standing here today at one of Keno Crosby's flagship plants where we manufacture from cradle to grave our Crosby shackles, from raw billet to finished good. Now come on back and let me show you how they're made. So today, we're going to walk through the entire manufacturing process that takes this raw billet to this finished Crosby shackle and every step along the way. In those steps, we go from our die manufacturing to drop hammer forging, to our heat treat process, and then to secondary operations, setup and assembly, to proof testing, and then all of our quality checks through to powder coating and finishing to final assembly, and then finally onto our shipping trucks and off to the distribution center to fulfill one of our many customer orders. But it all starts right here with our die manufacturing, which we do 100% in-house from raw steel. And combined in-house between our design engineers and our expert operators, we have over 160 years of die manufacturing experience.
Crosby die blocks are machined in a programmed CNC machine according to the specific shackle being made. Engineers create the detailed designs of the shackles to be forged. These dies are also created for all different types of Crosby rigging products. Just as important as the dies which forge the shackles are the trim tool sets. These are used to cut away the excess steel from the edges of the shackles after they are hammered. Each undergoes regular maintenance to prolong their lifespan and keep the quality consistent with Crosby standards. These dies are then sent to the drop forge hammers, where the hot steel billets are forged into their shackle shape. Product identification codes, or PICs, are formed into dies so each shackle and its materials are fully traceable. The billets are made from the highest quality fine-grained special bar forging steel, all from domestic steel mills. Every heat or batch of steel receives a certified material analysis for quality and metallurgic properties in Keno Crosby's laboratory before being sent to the forge. The billets are dropped into a hopper, which allows a continuous supply of billets to feed the induction heater. The hopper vibrates, causing the billets to inch along, moving in line towards the induction furnace. Once in the furnace, each billet is heated to an exact temperature before heading down the conveyor to the hammer forge.
If at any time heat sensors read a temperature that is not within tolerance, the billets drop into a side hopper and are not allowed to pass through to the forging process. Temperatures must be perfectly controlled to maintain Crosby quality standards. The hot billets travel on a conveyor to the hammers, where they are placed on the die. The hammers are all closed die forging hammers. This is an important part of Keto Crosby's process. While many other shackles are forged in an open die, all Crosby shackles, 300 tons and smaller, are forged in a closed die, giving Crosby shackles their superior performance characteristics. Closed die forging is essential for superior grain flow in the steel, consistency and accuracy within the dimensions of the shackle, as well as clear lettering. Some of the shackles are hammered through manual manipulation, where each billet is moved by hand to the different stages of the die: preform, forge, and finishing. The shackles are then moved by hand to the trim tool, where the excess steel is removed. The hot shackles drop onto a conveyor belt, taking them to a hopper, where they are collected for the next stage. Other hammers are fully automated, with Kuga robots performing each of the manipulations. The robots move the shackles through each stage of the forging process, from preforming to forging, finishing, trimming, and onto the conveyor belt. The real work here is done by the robot techs, who program each of these moves, operate the machines, and keep the robots performing at the highest level. The largest shackles, with a working load limit of 30 tons all the way up to 300 tons, are forged using a powerful steam hammer. Each shackle of this size is manipulated by hand and large equipment. Different products and sizes require a different number of blows to forge them. Each blow of this massive hammer shakes the entire building. A crane is used to move the product from hammer to trim. No matter what hammer is used, the shackles all pass through stringent quality control checks at each stage. Large bolt-type shackle pins are created using a bolt header. Robots move induction-heated pins to a press, where the head of the bolt-type pin is formed. Each bolt head is clearly marked with a product identification code for complete traceability. They then head off for the machining of their threads. Here, some shackles are drilled. If the shackle needs to be manually drilled, it is done at this stage. Shackles are held in place while their ears are drilled to create the pinholes. Once the holes are drilled, they're sent off for heat treatment. After the shackles leave the forging hammers or manual drills, they're transported to a belt furnace to begin the quench and temper heat treatment process. This process is arguably the most important part of making a Crosby shackle, as it develops a tough material that reduces the risk of brittle, catastrophic failure. Keto Crosby heats the shackle to the perfect temperature. The microstructure of the steel is formed into tempered martensite, refining grain boundaries and giving the shackle the toughness to best resist fraction. Out of the furnace, The shackles are then quenched in liquid. Quenching freezes the steel's grain structure within the shackle. The shackles then move into a second furnace to be tempered. This time, they are heated to a lower temperature to relax the steel and give the shackle their ductility. Each of these temperatures has been perfected, tweaking the temperature over many decades to give the shackle superior ductility ratings, toughness, fatigue, and impact properties. After the heat treatment, hardness checks are performed to make sure the shackle is within the required tolerances. Next, if the shackles have yet to be drilled, they head to the robo drills. Automated drills are used to drill through the ears and quickly create precise pinholes. These workstations allow for an extremely efficient process as workers move between the different automated stations, drilling some shackles and tapping and assembling a different batch of shackles. Once heat treated and drilled, the shackles are cleaned by running them through a tumbler. The shackles are loaded into the tumbler and the steel is tumbled until shiny. Now, the shackles are ready to head to the finishing stages of their manufacturing. Depending on if the shackle is a screw pin, round pin, or bolt type shackle will determine the next stages. Most screw pin shackles are tapped, adding the threads in the ear, and assembled in an automated process. Some screw pin shackles, including the larger ones, are tapped and assembled by hand. Bolt type shackles require hand assembly, screwing on the bolt and adding the cotter pin. Once assembled, shackles head off for testing and then to powder coating or galvanizing. It is important for the shackles to be tested for quality and performance. Creating a consistently safe product is of the utmost importance to Kilo Crosby and its customers. The shackle type and size will determine if the shackles are individually proof tested and magnetic particle tested, or if they are batch tested. Shackles are put in a pull tester, pulled to their proof load, and held for a set amount of time. Specific shackles undergo magnetic particle testing, where fluorescent magnetic particles are applied and then inspected under ultraviolet light to determine if there are any defects in the shackle. Only once their quality is assured can they move on to the next stage of the process. Now, the shackles are ready to receive their color. Powder coating of Crosby shackles is all done in-house. Powder coating is the painting process. The shackles are hung on hooks that are electrically grounded. The line then runs the shackles to clean them and remove any contaminants. They are then run through a drying oven before spraying them with the powder coating. The powder is electrostatically charged, attracting it to the electrically grounded shackle and adhering to the surface, ensuring a uniform coating. From here, the line moves the shackles into the curing oven, where the powder is melted, forming a film that adheres to the surface and is baked on. Once out of the oven, the dull powder now shines with that signature Crosby red. Once the shackles are powder coated and assembled, they are ready to be shipped. Millions of Crosby shackles are shipped each year. In 1 year, Kito Crosby manufactured enough shackles to lift 22 million tons. From here, Crosby shackles are shipped all over the world and used on construction sites, ships, factories, and mills. They are used in just about every industry that you can imagine, from construction, industrial manufacturing, utility and power generation, oil and gas, renewable energy, transportation, aerospace, forestry and agriculture, fishing and aquaculture, mining, military and defense, maritime, entertainment, and more.
So that's how Crosby shackles are made. I hope that the next time you drive past the construction site, or you look up and see one of these suspending something in the air, you have a bit more appreciation for the technique, skill, and hard work it takes to make these and keep everybody safe. The men and women who make these are proud of the job that they do. At Mazzella, we have a massive inventory of Crosby shackles. We also have one of the largest inventories of wire rope, hoist parts, slings, rigging hardware, pullers, and more. And we have the experts who can make sure that you get the right piece of equipment to make sure you get the job done safely. Feel free to contact us by clicking the link in the description if you want to learn more. If you found this video useful, informative, entertaining, or you just feel like being friendly, then hit that like button so we can get this information out to everyone who needs it. Subscribe to the bell so you never miss a video. If you have a question, drop it in the comments so we can get you an answer. Remember, safe rigging is smart rigging. My name is Ben. Stay safe out there.
So, you're working at height. You're using the proper fall protection. Great job. But if you fall, does your team have a plan to help get you down safely? Rescuing a worker from a fall is just as important as preventing a fall. Did you know that if you're not rescued in a timely manner, suspension trauma can set in? You may experience symptoms after only 3 minutes, and it's possible for death to occur in minutes, not hours. So, how do you set up a proper rescue plan? I'm going to give you 5 tips to ensure you're keeping your team safe should a fall occur. My name is Ben, and this is the Lifting and Rigging Channel. OSHA 1926 Act 502D20 states, the employer shall provide a prompt rescue of employees in the event of a fall, or shall assure that employees are able to rescue themselves. So yes, this plan is an OSHA requirement. ANSI/ASSP Z359.4 provides guidance on safety requirements for assisted rescue and self-rescue systems, subsystems, and components. There is an inherent danger with hanging at height in your harness. Your harness can act as a tourniquet to your femoral artery. There's also a chance that injury may have occurred during the fall. So the best way to ensure a safe rescue is to thoroughly plan out what steps should occur if a worker at height falls and is suspended in their harness. I'm going to give you 5 tips so you can better ensure the safety of a worker who has fallen and needs rescue. Stick around till the end for a bonus tip and access to supporting materials. Tip 1, documentation. You need to document your plan. You should have documentation of the steps that will be taken should a fall occur. Have a JSA, job safety analysis. We have a working at height risk assessment and JSA bundle that you can download below that includes tips and information that you should gather before the work at height begins. Things that should be documented in your plan are a description of the type of work being completed, how and where, the types of fall protection being used, and if ANSI/ASSP Z359 approves that equipment. Has that equipment been inspected? We have guides on how to inspect your fall protection equipment linked below. Document that it has passed an inspection before it was used. Document a fall analysis, including clearance distance from the anchor point to the object and lower level. Document information about the length of your fall arrest system. This needs to take into account the height of the employee as you plan the rescue procedure from Emergency rescue contact information needs to be gathered and provided to everyone who needs it. You need to know everyone who needs to be contacted should a fall occur and document that they have been notified before the work at height has begun. Also, designate someone who will call 911 or contact emergency services. The plan should include step-by-step procedures for self-rescue and assisted rescue, whether mechanical or performed by a rescuer. What equipment will be used to perform the rescue? Where is the equipment that needs to be used during the rescue? Is the equipment in proper working order? Document that it is available immediately should a fall occur. Note if there is anything that could get in the way of a rescue. Then make a plan for how to reach a suspended worker should that occur. What is the landing area for a rescue?
It's
How many
9
people will
hours.
be needed for a rescue? How will people be notified should a rescue be needed? Are the people needed for a rescue available immediately? How will you keep the personnel involved in the rescue safe during the rescue? How will you communicate with the suspended and the rescue team? All of these questions need to be answered and documented. Documenting the plan will make sure that all the information needed is accessible to anyone who may need to follow the plan. You can also use it as a checklist, making sure all steps are taken before the work at height begins. Tip 2, rehearse your plan. During an emergency, your plan should be second nature. Every minute counts. You don't want your team fumbling around trying to figure out what they should do. You also don't want anyone to panic or get hurt while they attempt to rescue. Practice how you will perform your rescue plan from a safe level. Drill it frequently. Alternate roles so everyone knows how to perform the rescue. Your team should be well trained. OSHA 1926.503 requires that all employees exposed to fall hazards shall be trained by a competent and qualified person. Tip 3, keep it simple. Just like with any job, there's not always a simple way to get things done. But you should keep your rescue plan as simple as possible. 1, this makes it easy to pull off and understand. 2, there is hopefully less that can go wrong. Each job site will need its own plan. Your plan can be as simple as getting a ladder or scissor lift. If using a lift to rescue a worker who's fallen, make sure there is a second fall protection device available for the fallen worker. Also, remember that any equipment used in a fall must be removed from service. Tip 4, maintain circulation. When a worker falls and is in suspension, the harness acts like a tourniquet to your femoral artery, cutting off circulation. You can pass out and go into shock. You can develop a blood clot when hanging suspended in a harness, which can travel to your lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism, or your brain, causing a stroke. You can suffer from cardiac arrest or brain damage, or even worse, you can die. So that is why a fast rescue is crucial. A fast rescue comes from a well-planned and practiced rescue plan. Finding ways to relieve the pressure from your femoral artery and maintain circulation is crucial. One way to do this is to buy a harness with trauma release straps, or buy trauma release straps and attach them to your harness. These are straps that allow you to stand in them and relieve some of that pressure from your legs. Even if you don't have trauma relief straps, moving your legs can help. Is there a portable ladder, rope ladder, etc. that can be used to help a fallen worker relieve that pressure? This is also why it is so important to call 911 as the fall occurs. That way, once back on the ground safely, emergency services are there to take action if necessary. Tip 5, be prepared to change your plan. Planning everything that could go wrong, and then having a plan for that is your best option when forming a rescue plan. But just like any plan, you need to be prepared to react if necessary. Plan for things to go wrong. Practice things going wrong so you can react to it. Training is key. Make sure all your workers who are exposed to a fall hazard are trained to work at height. Make sure they are trained on the rescue plan.